All right, let's get this over with. Ah, hey. Hello there, friends. Welcome back, everybody, to the TJR Auto channel. My name is Tyler, and in today's video, you are already inside of Crystal. So, that means that you and I get to have a lot of fun today. So, for those who don't know, this is my beautiful, crusty and dusty, and hopefully we can make it trusty, 1986 Chevy K10. So, this truck is a really good truck, but I still have not driven it once. And there's a few reasons as to why we have not. First things first, that is not good. I kind of value my life, some days, so it'd be nice to actually have brakes. Here's another good reason. That's not very promising looking. This hose looks a little bloated, if I do say so myself. And that looks disgusting.
What the hell is even that?
And here's our final issue, which was not fun to deal with, to say the least. So we have a box of goodies here. One of these guys. New rad hose, because, big baller. I bought these, which will come in handy on other cars such as the GTO and the Marquis, but it would be nice. You'll see why we need that. Zip ties, because I somehow ran out of zip ties like a month ago and have been really hanging on the edge. Here we have a nice little 160 stat to go with that. We also have all these terminals, which I'm going to have to borrow one of the crimp tools from a buddy. And then we have 50 feet worth of 4-gauge cable. And you might say, Tyler, why did you buy 50 feet of 4-gauge cable and those connectors and battery terminals? I think, yep, that's it. Well, this almost burned the truck to the ground. This is Carmela. She's, I think she's 4, maybe turning 5 months old now. She's a pit bull mix. Yeah, she's a funny little one. Now that setup is an easy 60 horsepower. This hose clamp was kind of sketchy, so we'll see if we'll see if she leaks. But that looks good. I figured before I clean really anything, this all looks horrible. This car definitely needs a rebuild, but we'll give it a good old rebuild, And I also wouldn't mind cracking this fuel line loose here. I believe this style carburetor, there's no filter, like an inline filter. So I think there's like a cork style filter here, which I would like to take out and, refurbish and see if that helps us any. Also replace some of the vacuum caps that were here because they're all cracked. And just, she needs some love. Well, folks, I'm going to take a guess and say that that's not supposed to be in there. So I'll clean this little guy out and then hope that this guy seals back up. Got that little filter clean, put her back in. I did about 10 seconds worth of wiping with some brake clean around the carburetor and I gave up. But what I think we should do now is I already took a little screwdriver and I roughed up all the nasty shit sitting on the intake manifold. And I think we should put a bag over the distributor, put a bag over the carburetor, and we should probably give this thing a little wash. Probably wouldn't hurt. I still have to wait for the starter to come in, so I figure the thing's probably going to be sitting here for at least a day, kind of let it dry out. So let's see how much of a mess I make and how many things stop working.
12 seconds later.
Alrighty guys, it's been a little while since I picked up the camera, but the oil change is completely over with. And I figured since I have to actually wait for the correct master cylinder to come in, since I was sent the wrong master cylinder, I figured why not cut the rest of the wiring out that we don't need. So that's a lot more wiring than I was expecting, but some of that is speaker wire from inside the truck. But yeah, we got that dingy little solenoid taken off of here, and all the wires that were up here have been taken out. So cleaned up pretty decent, threw a couple of zip ties over here just to hold some of this nasty looking shit back. Gave everything a quick wipe, and we're looking pretty good so far. The inside of the truck actually benefited from that as well. because now we don't have that rat's nest hanging down there. So we're still looking pretty good. There is one problem, and I don't really know how to feel about it. It just kind of adds on to the flavor of this truck. But I looked under it, and it's leaking something, and it looked kind of, you know, clearish, goldish. Well, guess what, guys? I'm sure somebody saw this coming. There's a hole in my oil pan. I don't know about you guys, but if your mechanic doesn't use JB Weld Clear to fix your oil pan, I think you're at the wrong mechanic. Well, well, well. She is full of oil, and she has not leaked a drop. That is all epoxy. Oh, sorry, my professional JB Weld. That's what that is. But we look good on the oil aspect. So now let's move on to the one thing that's keeping us from starting the truck, which is, you know, starter and battery wires. So setting this up, or I guess wiring this, is actually pretty simple. So I bought these terminals off Amazon, so they're bolt-on style, so I can basically just put an eyelet on each cable. I don't have to worry about actually clamping on a terminal like this. So that's good. So we have each terminal, right, positive and negative. So what we're going to be doing is running up negative ground, so a negative from here up to the alternator mount, which is this loose bolt right here that I took out. This is where the old one went to. So we'll have a short cable going to there, and then I want to make a secondary cable that runs directly to the frame rail, and we'll probably utilize this other ground that's already down there that goes to the headlight harness. So that's going to be our two grounds. And then we will have our positive wire run nicely down the frame rail and go to the big lug, which is that guy right there. The nut's currently not on it, and have the positive wire go there. You guys can see the wires that are currently on that lug. I believe that basically just shares power to the rest of the chassis. And then our trigger wire is down yonder as well. You can see that pink wire, the pinkish looking wire. That's our trigger wire. That just needs to be tightened up. But thankfully, my coworker had a big battery. It's basically for making bigger, bigger crimps. So he let me borrow this. So Keith, shout out to you. But now we will be able to crimp these ends onto our new cable. And I bought plenty of cable because it was kind of cheap enough. And I figured this also gives me leeway on if I mess something up, or if I ever want to put an extra ground or something on another car. So let's get it. Here's a little scary moment of truth. If we're gonna find out if the starter needs a shim. No way. No way. What? Dude, that quick? Oh man. Yeah, she's a runner. She wants to live, guys. Come on now. Look at this thing. That was fast. But yeah, battery cables didn't come out too bad, and nothing's on fire yet, so that's good. But I definitely want to tie the tires up out of the way. Tie the wires up to the frame rail, out of the way, neaten it up a little bit, but just wanted to confirm that she still runs before we bother. And it ain't pissing nothing, so I'll call that a success. Alrighty, well, we at least sort of temporarily have all the cables tied up decently nicely. Preferably those clamps down on the frame rail. I would like to flip the other way to try to get the starter cable a bit further away from the exhaust, but this should be fine, at least for, idling purposes and for maybe a test drive. So before it downpours, let's fire her up and let her idle. That's amazing. I have not touched the pedal once except for revving it. Wow, she starts good now. Alrighty, folks, well, Amazon righted their wrong, and they finally sent me the correct master cylinder for the truck. So let's get this baby out of the bag. we will bench bleed it the best that we can, and then put it on the truck and hope that I don't have to bleed the lines on the truck. Well, I guess really the front calipers, because those bleeders are non-existent. So, yeah, let's see what happens. You know, I will say it's a lot easier to install the master cylinder when you actually have the right one. So we bench bled it, threw it in, cleaned up the area, you know, kind of back there and whatnot, got the lines on, been pumping the shit out of the brakes, and I have no leaks except for the rear line, which, as anybody might remember, is broken. So I don't really care for the rear brakes right now. As you guys can see, that line popped. So I'm kind of just letting them bleed out onto the plywood whenever I pump them. But I think we're actually pretty close to driving this thing. So one other thing I did notice with this lovely shit box is it looks like the vacuum advanced is not hooked up. You can see it back there. So I got to find out where exactly that's supposed to go. I think that goes somewhere on the carb. And then we'll see if the truck wants to run a little bit better. But I really want to drive this thing today. It's gorgeous outside. Look at this. Oh, what a steed. Alrighty, I hooked up a vacuum line to that port back there on the manifold. So, yeah, let's see if that helps anything, and if not, then maybe I can switch it over to the carb, see if that helps. I don't really know what I'm doing. We're just kind of doing trial by fire here, people. Let's fire it. 2 pumps. Well, happy so far. I guess we'll see if it helps with anything. Well, I think that's about the only legal thing about this truck, as well as the only structural integrity for the rear bumper. So that's good. Yeah, that ain't going anywhere. Alrighty, well, she seems to be idling pretty solid. Can't say if I really noticed much of a difference before. If anything, it might have sounded more like choppy before. So I guess that's good. And if we rev it, if you go wide open, it wants to backfire. She also still smokes pretty good, but that may or may not have something to do with the entire bottle of Marvel Mystery Oil that I dumped in the gas tank with only 4 gallons of gas. So let's go see if we can make it to the gas station. I took Crystal for three rides around the block, and I didn't know if I was going to make it back any 3 of those times. I felt like I was gambling my life at the stake of, will it drive? The answer is not really, sort of not really. This thing is horrible. It looks cool, sort of, depending what angle you look at it. But my Lord, this thing was like all over the road. I mean, it's an old truck. I know that's kind of what you got to expect, but this thing was super, super floaty, kind of cool. I'm sure if it ran good, I probably wouldn't mind. But between the thing being floaty, steering wheel was completely crooked. Something, it was just, yeah. So she was doing the old square body shuffle, I'm going to call it. And as soon as you go to give it really any throttle, which of course you need to do to go anywhere, the thing just backfires and sputters at you. So yeah, this carb's probably shit. The timing's probably off. The plugs are definitely shit. And yeah, this motor's probably not going to make it to its next oil change, but it would be nice to see this thing actually drive decently. The speedo works, so that's pretty cool. I think I got up to a whopping 30, which took forever. It probably took at least a quarter mile to get this thing up to 30 miles per hour, which is just horrible. I would love to say that with a straight face, but it's just horrible. I lost my tripod somehow, so I need to find that. Otherwise, I probably would have shoved you in one of my large holes in the dashboard to show you guys and bring you along. But really, you probably would have gotten thrown around and thrown out the window with how jumpy this thing is. Quite exhilarating, I guess you could say. You know, I had to bust out the fancy Milwaukees because I'm a square body guy now. So I got to look like this. You know what I'm saying? I'd probably be better off walking. That's honestly more reliable, let's say. The odds of me spraining my ankle walking are lesser than this thing shitting out on me 5 houses up from where I live. Is that like the accelerator pump going bad? Is that a diaphragm going bad? Is there a vacuum leak? Is my vacuum advance not right? Couldn't tell you. I don't know shit about these things. With that being said, I think that's where we're going to be wrapping up today's video. like I said, quite an exhilarating experience trying to drive Crystal. So it was interesting. It was definitely worth the shot, and we'll see how long this little truck lives for. Well, at least a little 305 under the hood. I have a feeling I should probably just start looking for a 350 or something, because, yeah. Also, I don't know if it shifted at all. This thing was so I really couldn't tell if it shifted gears. I did manually move the lever. I also couldn't tell if it was shifting gears. So that's going to be for another day. But as always, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Hopefully you guys stop by next week to see some more content. If you want to see more content, make sure you subscribe. And if you like the video, which I don't even know how to feel about this truck or this video, but please drop a like down below. Drop some comments down below. You know, aside from the idea of me just throwing the truck in the recycling can that's sitting next to it, which is very tempting, let me know what you guys think. If whenever you go to basically rev it up and it just backfires, I know I can look up a million videos on YouTube, but I'm still just, I think a lot of stuff needs to be changed or needs to be rebuilt with this motor. I think it was sitting for a really long time and gummed up a lot of shit in the carb, and even running like carb treatment or carb cleaner through it, I really don't think it's going to help much, because I already did that through the fuel system and it did not help whatsoever. So anyways, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I love each and every one of you. I'll catch you guys next time.